Welcome back, my friends, to the Sweet Spot, where IT leaders share the insight with all leaders and others that want to lead. My name is Carlos Vargas. I don't know if it's every week, every month, every year, but we're back with our two co-hosts, our Holton and Populus. Hello, guys.
Yeah.
Hey Carlos, how's it going?
That feels like a shot on the times we can't do it because one or more of us are in another meeting and or traveling and or occupied in some other way.
Yeah,
I needed.
it is unfortunate, right? Because right now is conference season,
Yeah.
Yep.
and the problem with being popular is, well, you're popular, so trying to manage a recording schedule around conferences, especially those that require, as much kind of time as these do from us, is a bit of a challenge, I will admit.
And of course, ones that require physical presence at a theme park after the fact makes it even more difficult.
Well, yes. I wasn't going to comment on that, Mr. Lewis. But how many theme parks did you hit last week?
What was that?
How
How
many?
many?
Theme parks?
5.
And did you hit each of them one time? Did you do any revisits?
3 of them revisited.
So you hit 8. You did 8 trips last week.
Yes.
Nice. Did your son have a good time?
My daughter came. My son
Your
stayed.
daughter. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I thought you were bringing your son with you. My bad.
No, my oldest came, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. However, she didn't do rope drops as I demand generally, so she didn't get the experience as much as she could have. There was some things she couldn't do because she didn't make it there at rope drop.
Oh. Right. The second.
Yeah, I was
part
gonna say.
Yeah.
Is she dropping or something? Are you taking like bungee jumping?
No. Rope drop is as soon as the park opens. That's the term you use to walk in at that time.
Expert Disney rope
And now that
drop.
they have a new fast pass system, if you don't, if it's a very crowded timeline and you don't have fast pass, then vast majority of the big rides you're not going on generally, or as what she had to do was stand in line for 3 hours on some of them. Or if you rope drop, you get to go to at least 3 of them prior to any of the big crowds coming in. So that's helpful.
Depending on park.
Yeah, depending on the park.
Because like if you did Rise of the Resistance, which is the smartest one to start with at rope drop,
Yep.
you're not going to get. You might get into the line at Millennium Falcon when it's only 45 minutes.
Because it's
Then
such
the
a
third
long
line is
experience,
gonna be
right?
tomorrow.
Yeah.
When it's only 45 minutes.
45 is great. I'd jump in that line if it was only 45.
Yeah, I would do endless Millennium Falcon if it was only 45 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I honestly, I did Rise of the Resistance at like 75 minutes, and it was worth it.
Yeah. What I wouldn't do is a 90-minute Slinky Dog. That's what I wouldn't do.
Yeah, no. I don't know that I'd wait in a line for Slinky Dog.
Oddly
what-
enough, Slinky
what do you
Dog is, other than Rise, is the second busiest ride. And it's not because it's all that popular. It's because there's only one coaster on in any one period of time.
Ah.
So the average guest per hour is very, very low.
That seems like that was a mistake from a design standpoint.
Yeah, I would think so.
Considering the number of people they pushed through. Did you go on the Mickey and Minnie car ride?
I did the new one that replaced the old school Hollywood movie one. Yeah. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think
It was
that's
well done.
I think Rise of the Resistance is by far the best ride, and I think that's actually the second best.
Not yet, because I don't think you've been on Cosmic Rewind yet.
I don't know which one that is. What do you
That
do
is
on
the new Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot. It just opened.
Oh no, I haven't. I've not been on that one.
It is spectacular.
Yeah.
Imagine it is Space Mountain, holistically, right, with the lights on, with the thematically of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's all 80s and 90s rock and roll playing, right, at the same time, and the cars pivot 180 degrees.
Oh.
So when you're turning, the car's turning, not just the whole train's turning. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, you'll enjoy that one from a ride.
Does it maintain the story? Like the same story as the movie?
Yes. Yep. Same. It's about you helping them, find some lost treasure.
Whatever. Is there anything else good about Epcot besides that one ride?
I still like Soarin' and Test Track. And of course, it's the Food and Wine Festival, so eating around the world is always a good experience.
Sure. And eating around the world would be great if it was free.
That's true.
Right? The problem is these parks are expensive.
Yeah.
Right. And to go to a park that has 4 rides for your $90 a ticket or something is ridiculous. It was $45 a ticket, no problem.
Yep, that is fair. It's $100 US to get in, and another $22 for the Genie Plus.
Right.
Just move to Florida.
And then wait, and then
you get a discount.
What does that cost in Canadian dollars? Is it like $750 a ticket
Easily.
or something?
Easily. two people runs you $2,000. It's quite an expensive adventure.
Yeah.
So are any of those more popular than another? Like, do you see like one be more popular than another?
You
Like
mean
from
park
the
by
parks and
park
stuff
or
like that?
ride by ride?
Well, probably park or ride is one more popular on your idea.
Oh, yeah, by far.
MK and HS, Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, are far more popular than Epcot and Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
So is the story different?
Well, yeah, they're thematically very different parks. Yeah. Magic Kingdom is old school Disney, right? 1972 Disney, effectively. That's what it feels like. Epcot is sciencey. Animal Kingdom is obviously animal centric / Avatar / dinosaurs. And Hollywood Studios is all thematically based on movies and TVs. Right?
So if you think about it, both of you guys have run every park in the planet.
Correct.
And you understand the story of each one of those, and you actually pay to go to them. So they're not free. If you think about it, when somebody's telling you a story that is technically has to be a popular story, something that is interesting to you, does it mean that you see yourself as the Little Mermaid when you go there to the park as a story? Or when somebody's selling you something and they tell you a story, should they see themselves trying to be that? Let's say a customer. If somebody tell you a customer story, do you see yourself in the customer? Like when you go to Disney? Like, do you think that you're like the hero or something like that? Or how does it go?
I'd argue the point of a customer story. Oh, good transition. One of your transition. I would argue
we us so much from the Disney conversation, and now we can move on to another conversation.
Right. I'd argue that the purpose of a customer story is for you as a buyer to envision yourself in their shoes and say, given what they went through, I'm likely to go through the same experience. So was it a positive, negative, or indifferent? And more specifically, can I duplicate their success in my company for my problem set? That's at least the goal when I'm hearing it. I'm not sure it's ever successful.
Have you ever heard a negative one?
No.
I've heard a bunch that were negative because they didn't teach me anything. I heard a bunch that were negative because I'm like, I'm not doing any of those things. Right. I've heard a bunch that were negative just because they didn't achieve the goal, which was to make me more of a buyer, and instead they made me less of a buyer. Right. But I think the problem actually is they don't tell a story. Right. A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And what's supposed to happen is the beginning is supposed to get you excited about the people. Right. The middle is the down, not the up. The middle is the trials and tribulations. It's the orcs attacking. It's all of the bad that happens. It's what makes it look like the darkest of days. And it's just before the end that it turns around. Right? A really, really, really good story starts looking at the beginning of the journey going, oh my God, that's a long way. I guess we better get started. And oh my God, this is still a long way. And I guess we better get started. And then all of the tragedy hits. Right? And it looks like they're going to die. It looks like they're going to lose. And some of their companions get lost along the way. Right? And then it's right there at the very end that you push through, that all the lights turn green, that all the switches flip, that the ring gets tossed into Mount Doom, and the good guys win. And ultimately, that's the problem, right? That's what's missing from every one of these customer stories. They're not actually a story.
Are you suggesting the magic isn't true? So when I hear a story that says I'm at the bottom of the mountain, I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, I have no other equipment. Uh, and then, la da 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 da, I'm at the top and I'm planting a flagpole. You
Yes,
mean the
I'm
stuff in the middle, the magic secret sauce is important to hear?
That's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting if Pinocchio said, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wish upon a star, I wish I was a real boy," went to sleep and woke up a real boy, no one would have made a classic tale out of it. Disney
Right.
would not have produced that.
Right.
You need to have the journey. Without the
Right.
journey, there's no point. I think if you just see it as beginning and end, succeed, done.
Correct. I swipe a credit card and the obstacle is overcome.
Right.
That's effectively what all the stories are that we get at all these conferences.
Every single one.
Is what is the challenge that you had? Well, the challenge that I had was we just couldn't have enough visitors to our website. So what did you do? I put in a purchase order, and amazingly, when I came back from vacation, it was fixed.
Right.
But like that's the most boring, and every one of them is that way.
So is it the content that they don't know how to explain? What was that journey that the customer needed to take to get that outcome, or is that
I think some of it's point of view. I think most customers' stories are written from the point of view of the vendor, not the point of view of the customer, right? Because from the point of view of vendor, you might not actually know all the trials and tribulations, the constraints, all of the political conversations they had to overcome. You just know that they had a problem set, they came to you, they purchased a service or product, and then 3 months later it was implemented and they measured it.
Well, especially because they don't tend to have the sales rep up there.
Right.
They tend to have the execution engineer, if that, or just an executive from the company.
Right.
In which case, the only person that was in the room was the executive from the customer, not the executive from the vendor who's standing up on stage. Right. And they never start with like, give me your journey. Right. How did you guys find yourself in this situation? Right. And this is the dumb part is everyone seems to think it's bad to embarrass themselves. So working in manufacturing, something we talked about and something that is talked about is manufacturing isn't sexy. It's a recruiting challenge. It just isn't sexy. There's nothing we're going to do about it. Right. Thinking about working in high tech in a factory doesn't get people's juices flowing. It doesn't make them go, golly gee, I'll do that versus Google.
Right.
Right. Yet the challenges are awesome. Right. Yeah. Okay. You can go work for Amazon, but Amazon's already solved all those things. Wouldn't you like to have the opportunity to solve it for somebody and solve it for somebody knowing that there is in fact a blueprint somewhere? You know what I mean? So it's more Indiana Jones than Apollo 13.
Right.
Right. No one had touched foot on the moon. How do we get people to there without the technology to solve it? Versus Indiana Jones, where I'm looking for the archaeology. I'm investigating and rebuilding the path that took people there already.
Right.
And so we talk about that. So I build this story of manufacturing, and the customer I'm building it for goes, yeah, we probably don't want to say that. We probably don't want to say what? We probably don't want to say that manufacturing is not sexy. Why? Well, because it's for a manufacturing audience, right? It's their words, not mine.
Right.
Like the fact that they would have, if I didn't have the experience, they would have poo-pooed it. You know what I mean? They would have pushed it aside. And no, that's an important part of the story. Why? Because we all acknowledge it. Because we're all fighting to retain people. And part of that fight is acknowledging the bad. Right? Part of the fight against ransomware is acknowledging that you got ransomed.
Right.
It's acknowledging that your security wasn't perfect. And you kind of have to roll, like if you're going to get up on stage, you kind of got to go, yeah, no, our shit was broken.
Right.
Our stuff wasn't perfect. We weren't magical, right? The Elves and Fairy network broke down.
Right.
And this is what happened. And yeah, you know, our uptime wasn't 5 nines. Our uptime was more like 1 9. With a 4
Which is kind of the irony, right? Because if they didn't have those problems or those holes or those process issues or those capability gaps, they wouldn't have bought that product or service. Right. So life wasn't perfect.
Right.
They're refusing to describe the imperfection, but they did describe the positive outcome of acquiring that product and service.
And it didn't happen after one game. right? Nobody
Right.
makes it to the Super Bowl after one game.
Right.
So what your
So I
season
have
look?
a
You weren't undefeated. You played 12 different matches. You had 5 proofs of concept. You tried 8 different things. You danced with 7 different vendors. Right?
Right.
What led you down this path? What made this the right way to do this? What made this the right solution? Why did you end up waking up in the morning and going, this is what I'm going to do? And I'm even okay with they just had the best people.
Right.
We've talked about it before, right? The technology is mostly equal. They just had the best people.
Right.
could
They're
it
the
be
best
that there
parts.
is something in their leadership that they're afraid
Yeah.
if they let someone know that there was something that was not good, that they will be judged by their higher ups? Oh, we didn't know that. You didn't do your job, or because I've seen that in other areas where some leaders don't want to let the people that they lead know that there's some flaw, thinking that is like a personal issue. Could it be
If
that then when
if
they
there were
present
no
reports?
flaws, I wouldn't need anybody in my organization. I
Right.
could fully
Correct.
automate with robotics. Right. It's kind of
Well,
silly, right?
and
It's
and
kind of
vice versa.
naive to suggest that you don't have things to fix.
Correct. And it's both ways, right? Because we all worked at Hitachi,
Yeah.
right? How many times would Hitachi admit they dropped the ball on stage?
On stage.
But everybody
Only when
does.
only
Absolutely
when we
every
were presenting.
vendor drops the ball. Every single one. There's not one that doesn't.
Right.
Right. And if you own it, immediately you're credible. That's what I don't understand.
Right.
Right. Everybody that we hold in high esteem has failure in their background.
Hmm.
Right. Every actor has chosen a rotten tomato.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's made a flop. Ryan Reynolds has got to be one of the biggest actors in the world and can't stop talking about how he won't talk about Green Lantern.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there is no athlete that has a perfect winning streak.
Right.
And yet these are the people we hold in the highest of esteem. So failure that you get up from can't really be all that bad.
Yeah.
Right.
So to not talk about it means you're creating a fantasy. And we immediately see through it. We immediately go, yeah, okay, we're not dealing with reality. We're dealing with a really poor fairy tale, because even in fairy tales, the hero stumbles. Even in fairy tales, there's a challenge to overcome. And in removing the challenges, we just suddenly go, okay, so this isn't real.
Yeah. And even if it's not failure, maybe it's just constraint, right? To say, listen, we haven't evolved in our maturity for this thing because I have a financial constraint or a capability constraint. I don't have the expertise, or I have a regulatory constraint. All of
Or
those
there was
are
a shipping
perfectly
problem,
reasonable.
or somebody dropped the ball on something, or we had
Yeah.
a conflict, or there was a management change, there was a leadership
Yeah.
change,
All of those are
economic issues.
reasonable things
Somebody
to
got
talk
COVID, for Christ's sake. We've been going through a pandemic for 3 years. Like,
Right.
there's an infinite number of things that you can bring up, all of which people need to understand. It's the overcoming that's actually the story, not the completion.
Yep.
So
Well, I
if they
think
tell,
it's two sides. I think you need to effectively describe the problem set better. Like, it's not just I'm in the bottom of the mountain, I have no equipment. There's lots of other reasons why you're at the bottom of the mountain with no equipment. But it's also the complexity, the ups and downs, the misdirection of the process itself to implement it, because it's not a smooth path, right? It's not an easy 2-week install and up and running. It failed many times in that process, and you need to tell me about that, because I want to fail less than you.
Well, but I also want the confidence that the partner I've chosen is going to be with me throughout it. And if
Right.
there's never a challenge, then you're not a partner.
Right.
Right. If there's never a challenge, then we were just running on the same path and it happened to work out and I paid you to be there. Like, that's not a partner. Right.
does
You
the
don't
challenge
have
need
skin in the game if skin in the game if the skin's all mine, just being a customer buying a product.
Right.
so is the challenge need to be my challenge that I was not able to deliver that capability as a company, or you as a partner that you had a challenge to meet the need of a customer like me, and how you overcome that challenge
Both.
so we could. Okay.
Both, because the first challenge, the reason I went to a partner anyways is I can't do it internally. Right? We ran up against a problem we couldn't solve internally. Start there. Okay, cool. So I needed to find a partner to help me do it. Okay, I chose these guys, and this is what makes them a partner, not a vendor. A vendor is somebody you buy stuff from and nothing goes wrong, and they deliver what they've said, and it's seamless and it's painless, and there's never a challenge. Okay, you're not a partner. Right?
Right.
A partner is somebody who sticks with me when stuff doesn't go right, when someone who takes care of me, and I don't care which side it comes from. It's likely to come from both. Partnership is bidirectional, not unidirectional. Right? One of my favorite stories was as a Hitachi customer. We were doing a big migration, moving data centers, our main data center from California to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
It was being done over the Thanksgiving holiday. We were doing a huge data move.
U.S. Thanksgiving?
All of our say what?
U.S. Thanksgiving?
Yes, U.S. Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Like the Thanksgiving. Come on, Paul.
Because we've already had ours.
Right. But it's basically one of our 2 slow periods, right? And so it wasn't going as fast as we wanted. And what the engineer decided to do was stop a replication that had been going on for weeks, because we were just going to finish the replication and then kick it over the weekend. And it'd been going for like 3.5 weeks at this point. Right. He stopped it, deleted the volume, and started it over again. Yeah. Now, he could have stopped it, made a configuration change, and started it again. As long as he didn't delete the files, it was fine. It would just check if the file was there, it would skip it. But deleting it meant it had to start all the data transfer over from scratch.
Right.
As though that would fix it. Now, I could deal with all of that had he been honest about it. But all of a sudden, all of the timelines changed, and I couldn't figure out why. Right. And he started talking about it like it was a bug. And then I went and dug through the logs, and found that no, he deleted it. And had the evidence that he deleted it. Right? And I came unglued. Like, is, I think, reasonable.
Right, sure.
You know what I mean? Look, it's cool. You tried something. It didn't work. You thought it was. I don't agree with the logic. I wish you would have talked to me. But at least if you owned up to it, I could probably, I could at least empathize.
Right.
Right. Okay, so of course, he got fired. Right. Hitachi was not going to lose a customer over an idiot's mistake. Now, I had another one. We're doing an upgrade of firmware in DR. Mm-hmm. Right. Dude upgrades the firmware and shuts down the NAS to reboot it. Right. And he shuts it down, doesn't restart, so it has to be manually turned back on. Only he was in the interface for the production system, not the DR.
By mistake.
Yeah. So 45-minute outage right in the middle of the day. He called me immediately. Sent me an email. Hey, I'm really sorry. This is what happened. Cool. My boss goes, we're firing him. I said, no, you're not. No, you're not. It was an easy mistake to make. I've been at the interface. I'll show it to you if you want. There's one little corner that shows you which system you're on. It's way too easy a mistake to make. Yes, he screwed up. He owned up to it immediately. We got it resolved as fast as possible. Yes, it sucks, but the damage is done. And not only is he not likely to do it again, but if we show him loyalty, he'll do the same for us. This will go off absolutely seamlessly. He'll be our best friend. And all of that was true.
And I guarantee he tells dozens of people what not to do.
Correct. And told everybody else how good we are to work with. Because when stuff went wrong, we were his partner, just like he was our partner. Right? And that's the stuff that makes it interesting. That's the stuff that makes a good story. That's the stuff that tells me the employees and the companies stand with me and beside me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's a partnership.
So I kind of get why you want to shy away from past state, right? Past state, I had an ugly environment. I had security holes, all that kind of stuff. I can see why they would shy away from being detailed there. What I don't see is why they'd shy away from the ups and downs of the process. Like what's behind that? Why am I not telling that story frequently enough?
I think everybody thinks the other side is so fragile that they won't know how to react, or someone will get into trouble, like Carlos said. Right? I don't want to say how it actually went because this person's an EVP and they may not know that they had an engineer that made a mistake.
I see.
You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to tell you. I'm also going to tell you that if you even pick up the phone and call the guy, I'm going to fire you as my vendor.
Right.
Like the fact, if you show me that you can't see the upside to this, then you're not actually the partner I thought you were, in which case I'm going to fire you and go find someone who is.
Mhm.
Right? Like, it's the same people that seem to think a marriage is the honeymoon and the honeymoon alone. Like, you know those people, like, you've been married for 5 or 6 or 10 years, and you got that couple that just gets married, and all of a sudden they've never been married before. They're married for like 3 months, and all of a sudden they're the worldwide expert on marriage.
Right. This is what you have to do to maintain happiness.
What we do is we have a sharing stick, and when we have a conflict, we pass this. Yeah, and we're like, no, we've been married 20 years. We have a sharing stick too. We don't pass it back and forth. We just beat each other with it.
Nice.
You know what I mean? You know those people, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like, no. Everyone that's been married for a long time wants to hear actual stories of real marriage.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear from someone who's been married for 3 months that paints us with the rosy picture where you're like, you haven't even come to your first toll booth, much less the first breakdown.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to hear the breakdown. I want to hear the toll booth. I want to hear how you're together after going through an IRS audit together, how you're together after going through the death of a child, how you're together after going through some sort of trauma that shows this is a partnership. Right? Those are the stories that humans look for. Those are what we make movies about. Don't get up on stage and try to make up the 3-month marriage. No, I'm not going to believe you.
In customer stories, do the outcomes matter to you? Is that an important part of the story?
No, it's all about the journey.
Okay, I agree. Like, the outcomes are almost meaningless to me because those aren't the outcomes I'm looking for generally. Like, tell me whether it's successful or not, sure. But your percentage increases here or decrease of budget there, I'm not going to experience the same numbers. So why is it important?
Well, I also don't trust your ability to do math.
Right. Exactly.
Like, you didn't know this was a problem before. You didn't know that your uptime was 87.4% before you put this in place. Now all of a sudden you put this in place and your uptime's 99.999%. Come on.
Right.
I don't trust your math at all. And are you tracking your uptime hourly, daily, monthly, or annually?
Right.
You know what I mean? All of which changes what 99.9, what 5 nines actually means.
Right.
Right. Like there's so much depth to all the statistics, and it's so easy to lie using math.
Yeah.
That I don't actually.
Plus I'm comfortable that if they're up on stage at an event, it's probably a positive outcome. So, like I don't need the detail at that point. Yeah.
No one gives you a stage appearance as a concession prize to a project that went sideways.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, I would never buy that again. Oh, you're going to let me on stage? Well, then it's great.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody does that. So of course it's positive.
It's the same as a job reference. Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, right? It's not only is it positive, but it's the kind of AWS conversations that I keep seeing, right? Where someone makes a decision their organization isn't ready for. And it doesn't matter what cloud it is, but it's really popular with cloud. Oh, we're going to commit to spending $250 million over the next 5 years, and then 5 years and 1 day later, hey, I'm going now. I'm going to go work for AWS, and they get a EVP title where they just travel around saying how good it was, leaving the company to burn down because they were not ready for cloud. Right. Like, come on, you're on stage. This is about you as well. You know what I mean? You're kind of advertising. So raising your own
promotion. Sure.
Yeah.
Is there any metric that is more important than others? Maybe it's a dollar, maybe it's a time, maybe it's a culture. Like, is there any outcome you look at metric wise to say that's more meaningful than anything other?
For me, it's all about the partnership. So
yeah. I that's a great answer because the question I would ask more often is, would you do this again with the same partner? Would you implement another project with the same customer?
Yeah, I'm much more interested in, like, okay, so how did your wallet share shift to that vendor after that?
Right.
Not did you complete that one project successfully, but if they have the ability to capture 60% of your wallet and they were capturing 7 before, are they now up to 15, or are they still at 7? Or are they at 3? Right?
Yeah, like, they did that one project and you walked away.
That would be the most valuable, right? Because if you're like, oh no, after that project, I shifted all the buy I could put there.
Right.
Right. Because they earned my trust. Okay, cool. Then 100%. I want to do that too. I want someone I can trust to do these things.
Right. Good. So we're on the same page. It's one of those rare occasions we agree.
Yeah, it's funny. I keep telling, I keep having these calls with vendors, and I keep telling them, look, guys, you got to understand, you're selling trust.
Mm-hmm.
So why doesn't your language reflect that?
Right.
Right. Why do you talk about all the stuff that's not trust? Sell me trust. Then I buy. We're human beings. We're not robots. I don't buy statistics. Right. I trust.
Plus, your statistics aren't my statistics, right? I can't duplicate whatever gain you got. I might actually get better gain. Who knows? But I can't duplicate what you've done because I don't
have
a lot of
problems. Times. This was really popular in the early days of the cloud, where they'd compare. We're cheaper than running in the cloud. Okay, cool. Show me the math, and they show you the math, and you're like, did you choose the most expensive region in the world? You know what I mean? Like who the hell is going to choose the Papua New Guinea region to run this application?
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, we didn't choose the most expensive. No, you chose the most expensive. Right, you absolutely did. Right. Or while I can appreciate that's what you think the cost is, what are you figuring for network connectivity? What are you using as your baseline cost for power, cooling, and space? Oh, we didn't even add those. Right. So this huge cost sink that I have, but it varies too much from customer to customer. But it was okay to choose the most expensive region of AWS.
Right.
Like, come on. Right. You can't just make concessions one way. And that's what has me not trust statistics, because they're all the same. Right. I choose my best versus their worst. Okay. So I'm just going to go into it knowing you do that. So instead, sell me on trust. How are you going to be a partner when I need you to be a partner? We're about to enter into economic downturn. I'm telling you right now, that's how you survive it. And that's not only how you survive it, but that's how you excel. Why? Because I'm not going to cut the people I trust. I've got too many that I don't trust. I'll just cut those.
I have I'm on stage tomorrow talking about resilience. In fact, it was referred to as infrastructure resilience, which clearly I'm not an expert on. So I've reframed it to be organizational resilience, IT team resilience, and then technology resilience. I've kind of said I've changed the MO a bit. And part of the IT resilience is the net impact of IT budgets for 2023, and the stat I got last week, which I thought was interesting. IT budgets are going to increase by 3.9% next year. Unfortunately, that's against 11% inflation next year.
Sure.
And that's against a across-the-board 15% increase in my comp for my team, which of course is all of my OpEx expense, almost 80% of my IT budget, giving me a net negative IT budget of 12%.
Well, let's make it even worse, because that 3.9% isn't going to IT operations. That 3.9% is more like 8.5% that's going to security.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Like the net is IT budget. Security budget still tends to roll up to IT budget through IT budget in most organizations.
Yep.
And that does not mean I'm going to continue to spend the same amount I did on infra.
Right.
It doesn't mean I'm going to spend the same amount. Frankly, the same amount I have planned on cloud may not be what I spent. Right. And again, I'm going to spend with my partners every time.
Right. So knowing that that's what 2023 looks like, that's when I want to have a real partnership conversation. To say, here's the reality of my net dollar figure budget for next year. How are we going to, make it through?
And if your customer isn't transparent with you, you're not their partner. Right. Because I'd be having that conversation right now. Hey guys, I probably would have been having that conversation I know I was in February. Right. Going, hey, we've been investing, but we're not going to invest this way. Right. So if you have any plan to be on my radar for next year, then we need to talk about what you can do that I actually am going to invest in, because I'm not investing there anymore. Right. That budget is moving, that dollar is moving, that spend is moving. It's not going there. Right.
Here's my new list of projects.
Yep.
How are we going to work together? Yeah.
Yep. And if it was an organization different than the one that I just came from, the conversation would have been, I'm going to receive less money next year.
Right.
you're not on my list to get that money if you're not a partner. And if you are a partner, then this is what I need you to do. Right?
Right.
It's been the gravy train up to this point. We're now entering the tighten our belts. So we're going to have to tighten our belts as well. Just like I I paid for goodwill up front. Now's the time we're going to test it a little bit, and we're all going to have to be a little bit smarter. So let's be smarter together.
Carlos, that was a deep and interesting conversation. A rarity for us.
Populus customer story, really taking the time to sharing not only the good but the journey. That's the key. It's what gonna hook you. So if you want to be able to hook someone with your story, you need to be able to give them the good, but also the challenge, the journey. So then at the end, you can then say, hey, here's my offer. Buy from me and they will get it. If not, doesn't go anywhere. So my friends, has been awesome to see you again. Make sure that you share, you subscribe, and we'll see you on our next episode.